ANC President Cyril Ramaphosa is campaigning on the south coast of KwaZulu-Natal ahead of the party's 107th birthday celebrations. He says the governing party is guaranteed victory in this year's elections. Let's go live now to KZN, where eNCA reporter Samkele Maseko has been following the ANC leadership around for most of this day. And Samkele, when we spoke to you about 2 hours ago, Ramaphosa was addressing a small crowd at a taxi rank. Where are you now and what's going to happen?
We are currently at the Marburg Secondary School, Tembegile. I'm not sure if you are seeing on shot, or actually this tree is blocking you. The ANC president has just arrived at the Marburg Secondary School, where he's going to engage with one of the minority groupings in South Africa. That would be the Indian community in the Marburg area of Port Shepstone. He will be addressing ANC supporters and members in this particular region of the lower South Coast. He's been here throughout the course of the day. We also had an opportunity to speak to him. The crowd in that particular hall right now is currently rejoicing to him and screaming at the arrival of the ANC president. That would be inside that hall at the top over there. So they are happy, they're encouraged that the president of the ANC is there to engage with him. We did have an opportunity to doorstop him earlier on at the taxi rank, where he spoke about his upcoming meeting with former President Jacob Zuma, and also downplayed rumors and said that will not happen, that he will be booed at the Moses Mabhida Stadium. Also speaking very positively and of Samkele Maseko, the current provincial chairperson of the ANC in the province, saying that the unity project is ongoing well in the province. He's working very well with his leader in the province. That would be the provincial chairperson, Samkele Maseko.
You mentioned minorities and Ramaphosa's push to draw them to the ANC, and one of the reports we saw this past weekend, I think it was in the City Press, was about how in the list conferences the ANC was quite clear in wanting to be as racially diverse as possible. Are we seeing a similar push across KZN?
Well, what you can look at the ANC, Tembegile, particularly during the era of Ramaphosa as its then Secretary General, he has always pushed and wants to echo the legacy of former President Nelson Mandela of a rainbow nation, saying that the African National Congress, even now when he was deputy president during the era of former President Jacob Zuma, now as president, always saying that the ANC is for South Africans and is not for one particular racial group, that would be Africans in particular, saying the ANC must broaden itself up and have more racial representation within its representatives in the legislatures, in various municipality and metro councils, and in the National Assembly. So it was not by surprise that over the weekend at the National List Conference, he pushed for the Western Cape in particular to be more realistic of the racial demographics in that particular province, which would basically mean that those who are particularly Africans must not only flag themselves in the list of ANC's future or possible representatives in that provincial legislature, but they must be cognizant that Cape Town is a multi-racial province and they must have white, coloured and Indian representatives in that particular list. For instance, if you look at a province like KwaZulu-Natal, you've got the likes of Ravi Pillay, the current MEC of Human Settlements in the province. You've got the likes of Pravin Gordhan, who hails from this province and hails from the community of Chatsworth and went to Sastry College. So it tells you that KwaZulu-Natal is seemingly very cognizant of the racial and Indian dynamic of the Indian vote within this particular province. If you look at the eThekwini municipality, for example, the deputy mayor of eThekwini Metro is an Indian lady, which is Fazia Pia.
And what about the needs and the demands of the various communities? Are we finding over this last weekend and indeed today that the people of KZN, be it in the townships or what are considered to be predominantly Indian areas, and indeed what may be considered predominantly white suburbs, for instance, have the same demands, or do they differ according to where you are?
Well, Tembegile, in South Africa's socio-economic environment currently, you understand that the demands of those who live in Umlazi, KwaMashu, Ntuzuma, Savannah Park, KwaNdengezi, Pinetown, Claremont, it's very different from those who may live in squatter camps. Someone's demands in KwaBB, Emlazi, will be different from someone who lives in an informal settlement somewhere in Cato Crest or Cato Manor. So those demands vary from time to time. The service delivery issues in predominantly black communities and those who live in suburban areas like Umhlanga, Durban North, Westville, Hillcrest will be different from those who live in a township such as Gwandengezi, eNCA, which is predominantly a rural area in KwaZulu-Natal. So when you go to all of these communities, you find that the demands and the service delivery issues vary from area to area. For instance, a person who lives in Umhlanga will be more predominantly concerned about if their grass is cut, if rubbish bags are picked up, if their potholes are cleared. Someone who lives in an informal settlement, Samkele, will be less concerned about the state of the roads. They'll be more concerned about electricity and decent housing. That's what we are gathering from all of these visits from these political leaders. For instance, in one of the areas in Emasinenge, here in the lower south coast, where we went to, the topical issue was the issue of housing. There were people who were living in informal settlements, and the government had built RDP flats for them. So they were saying that they want to move into those RDP flats as fast as possible and not particularly concerned about the state of the roads within that informal settlement. What we also saw was fraudulent electricity connection within that particular informal settlement, which the president had to walk in electricity lines that were rolling on the floor, which would tell you, Samkele, for instance, if you go to areas such as Alexandra recently, a fire broke out within that informal settlement of Alexandra. You go to the issue of the Western Cape, if I'm not mistaken, it was Gugulethu, where there was an informal settlement fire as well. So it tells you that there are various socio-economic issues that plague poor communities in South Africa, and the impact it has on them when they fraudulently connect electricity and the fires that then break out. For instance, not all of these two areas, for Alexandra and Gugulethu, were caused by fraudulent electricity connections, izinyoka-nyoka in isiZulu, as they call them, but they do have a bad impact on the socio-economic issues, particularly when a fire breaks out in one of the shacks due to fraudulent connection of electricity.
Samkele, let's leave it there for now. That's eNCA reporter Samkele Maseko.